Pick of the Flicks presents Movie Myths, Fact or Fiction. The good, the bad and the ugly. You're watching Pick of the Flicks with Tony Douglas, and welcome to the Clint Eastwood Western Archives, an exclusive web series where I shine the spotlight on Clint's illustrious Western filmography. In this special episode, we flash back to the mid-1960s to shed some more light on Clint's revolutionary trilogy of spaghetti westerns that were masterfully directed by Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone. Sometimes known as the Dollars Trilogy or the Man with No Name Trilogy, this triple pack of trigger-happy cult westerns consisting of A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly changed the face of Western cinema forever. The three films have been discussed and dissected for years, but in today's episode we focus on a heavily debated myth surrounding the third and final film in the trilogy, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. On with the show. In today's Clint Eastwood Western Archive, we attempt to debunk a myth by asking the long-standing question, is The Good, the Bad and the Ugly a prequel? Yes, since this epic Western first graced our screens in 1966, film enthusiasts have been pondering on the idea that this landmark horse opera is in fact a prequel to Sergio Leone's original spaghetti Western, A Fistful of Dollars. The prequel debate was sparked by the scene in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly that shows Clint Eastwood putting on a poncho very late in the movie. As we all know, in A Fistful of Dollars, Clint rides into town wearing the same poncho. This clearly suggests that The Good, the Bad and the Ugly came first in the timeline, but was it all coincidental? There is also further evidence that points to the idea that the third film could be a prequel. Visual dates, for the most part, provide the real evidence and almost confirm the fact. In The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, there are grave markers in a military cemetery showing dates of 1862 and 1864, a time period smack bang in the heart of the Civil War. In A Fistful of Dollars, Clint uses a single-action army revolver, which according to gun experts came on the scene in about 1872, while in the second film, For a Few Dollars More, we see a newspaper dated 1873. Clearly, the first two films have a time frame dated after the Civil War happenings of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which for many nails the notion of a prequel. So in summary, were the grave dates, Clint's gun, the newspaper and the poncho all put in their place for a reason? Or were all of these things coincidental? It's almost impossible to confirm the real truth behind these inclusions, but I'm sure some will forever be wondering if it was all part of director Sergio Leone's master plan. It has been well documented that Sergio was renowned for reusing props from previous films, so we need to ask ourselves, was the poncho intentional, or was it just a matter of economics? This will always be open to debate, as the long-deceased Sergio Leone never officially confirmed the poncho one way or the other. I guess a lot of the continuing confusion exists because the chronology of the films became somewhat blurred, as many of the characters, leads and supports appear, disappear and reappear in different films. Some viewers are quick to dismiss the prequel idea for the simple reason that Cleef was killed at the end of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, yet pops up again in the second film for A Few Dollars More. Yes, Van Cleef is in both films, but the fact is he plays a different character in each of the films, so the likelihood of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly being a prequel is still technically on the cards. I guess Van Cleef's performance was so good in the second film that Sergio couldn't help but bring him back in some capacity, even if it meant casting Van Cleef as a straight-out killer in the third film. As we can see, nothing is black and white in this trilogy, but the reality is Sergio Leone tended to use the same actors over and over again. This is why everything in the trilogy is twisted and intermixed. To take the point further, Clint's co-star in A Fistful of Dollars, Gian Maria Volonte, gets killed in the first film and then turns turns up in the second film as another character. The only constant in the series is Eastwood, and that is because he stars in all three films. But is he the same character in all three films? The marketing suggests that he is by labelling him the man with no name. But the simple fact is, Clint has a different reference name in each film. In A Fistful of Dollars, Clint is credited as Joe. In For a Few Dollars More, he is called Monko. And in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, he is known as Blondie. Whatever the case, the man with no name has three names. But are they just three nicknames for the same character? Clearly the film's man with no name marketing has a lot to answer for when it comes to audiences believing that the three films are all connected by the same character. In the final analysis, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly does contain elements that suggest it could be a sequel. But at the end of the day, my belief is that none of the coincidences were intentional. Sergio just kept making the films because each one was more successful than the one before it. It was never planned as a connected trilogy, it just happened that way. With regards to the Civil War elements added to the third film, it was simply because Sergio had more money at his disposal and he wanted to give this film more scope and grandeur. I guess more money meant that he could be bigger, bolder and more creative, adding a little history to his fantasy tale, so to speak. Thus, the timeline didn't have to match the first two films. As for the poncho scene at the end of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, it's definitely a fantastic talking point. But it is essentially a tongue-in-cheek nod and a wink to the earlier films, a playful act by director Sergio Leone at best. For many, the myth may now be debunked, but I'm sure that there are still some fans out there pondering on the idea that The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is a prequel. Time now for you to have your say. What do you think about the myth surrounding The Good, the Bad and the Ugly? Is it a prequel to A Fistful of Dollars, or was the whole idea of a prequel generated indirectly by the marketing machine? Have your say in the comments below and let's get some discussion flowing. For more on Clint Eastwood's Dollars trilogy, be sure to subscribe to this channel and check out our Clint Eastwood playlist. Until next time, this is Tony Douglas, talking movies for Pick of the Flicks. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.
My mistake. Poor coffins.
This man with no name is played by Clint Eastwood. He's going to trigger a whole new style in adventure.